Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And the weather has broken. It is cold. Well, it's not cold, but it's cooler. And it's raining. And it's miserable. But hey-ho, life goes on. Good for the grass. Anna Sarwar has made a series of proposals that he says the Labour Party will attempt to push through Holyrood should they win the Holyrood elections in a couple of years. He's speaking as part of the 25th anniversary of devolution, and he says that basically cleaning the swamp, or cleaning the lock I suppose, is necessary, and he wants to introduce these various measures that will help to ensure that the public can trust that going forward there will be more honesty and openness in politics. Some of his proposals, I will say, I absolutely, totally agree with, and we are going to have a quick look at them to see, and I'm sure actually that most of you will agree that there's some very good measures in here. Now, he can propose all he likes. Proposing is not the same as achieving, and I do hope that it is something that happens. I think it's one of those, it'll get all party support from all parties except the SNP, maybe. They won't like it. They'll absolutely loathe it, in fact, because if one of these particular measures was in place, there'd hardly be an SNP MSP at all. But let's take a look and see what Sarwar is proposing. Here goes. So, Anna Sarwar promises to clean up Holyrood through a swathe of huge changes, as the arrogant SNP can't be trusted. Well, they've had 17 years of not being trusted. In fact, by the time the next election comes in Holyrood, it'll be 19 years of not being able to be trusted. And we all know the various shenanigans and misdemeanours that they have got up to in that time. And so he's going to sort of wander into town, some Wild West frontier town, and clean up the town like a new sheriff. The Scottish Labour leader gave a speech to mark the 25th anniversary of the Scottish Parliament as he outlined plans to give Scots the chance to recall misbehaving MSPs. And that is what we like. We like the idea of a recall. They've got it in Westminster, Parliament of Westminster, and in fact it was most recently used, in fact I think the only time it's ever been used in Scotland was with Margaret Ferrier last year. She of course was she was guilty of travelling whilst knowingly having COVID. I think that was something like that. Anyway, it was against the rules. She broke them. She got the suspension, a couple of weeks I think it was, something like that, and it's only been there and already the details fade from memory. But she got the suspension, which was long enough to trigger a recall petition. The petition ran, the petition was counted, they hit the requisite number, and so there was an election. And she was ousted. Of course, that was in Rutherglen, well remembered, David. Shows I can still pay attention when I'm concentrating. Rutherglen and Hamilton West, wasn't it? And that's where Labour got their big pronounced victory with a 20-point swing. And I remember watching the election that night and thinking, wow, 20. Anyway, it shows that this works. But you don't have it in Holyrood. And so is it something that Holyrood needs? Absolutely. Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar has promised to clean up the Scottish Parliament by putting forward a number of huge changes, including the ability for the public to axe naughty MSPs. Naughty MSP makes them sound, go sit on a naughty step. No, let's call it what it is. Criminal, MSPs. As he claimed that the arrogant SNP cannot be trusted to reform Holyrood, despite this being much needed. They won't want that. They are the ones that cause so much problems and do so many things. Was, after all, an SNP politician. Old Ferrier, wasn't it? And so they don't want the thought of being booted out mid-term by the electorate over the shenanigans and illegality or ineptness, all sorts of things, of what they've done. With the nationalists massively on the back foot, according to polling. Back foot. They're lying in bed at home with a note from Nursey. Don't come to school today. They are not even in the race, are they? Labour could seize power in 2026, very likely, but if not an absolute majority, then largest party. And we'll go into either a coalition maybe with the Lib Dems or have some kind of agreement with the other parties, and they will, because they don't want, no other party wants the SNP in. So even if they can't get enough, as I say, to form an absolute majority, they will certainly power share, one way or another, formal or informal, who knows. Now, Mr. Sarwar is marking the 25th anniversary of devolution by outlining a number of promises and reforms that his party would bring. Well, he's saying they'd bring, whether they get through another matter. But hey, we're still looking a long way in the future. 2 years for the election. By the time all this goes through, it could be another 4 or 5 years. Labour were the dominant party in Scotland for 8 years before Alex Salmond stormed to victory in 2007. He claimed that the SNP would not do this as they were too concerned with hoarding power in Edinburgh. Of course they are. Once they've got it, they won't give it up, will they? And that Scots were screaming out for a change at both Westminster and the Scottish Parliament. One of the changes he promised was the ability for voters to recall MSPs if they're found to have broken the law or are not representing constituents. I think they should also have one for ineptness or stupidity or clear, sheer inability to do the job. Not just malfeasance, The power already lies with the House of Commons, with recall petitions allowing misbehaving politicians, as I said, to be axed if enough votes are gathered. This happened, there we go, this happened for the first time in Scotland last year. As mentioned with Margaret Ferrier. Hey, I'll tell you what, same here. Big brain, we're on it. A previous attempt to do this had been put forward by the Scottish Tories following the scandal surrounding Derek Mackay in 2020. Didn't see it coming. 2020. All right, never mind. You lot are odd. He never showed back up to work at the Parliament over a year after being accused of sending inappropriate text to a teenage boy, but continued to pocket a substantial pay packet. Yes, he does like his young boys, doesn't he? SNP. We all know what the P stands for. Mr. Sarwar said at a keynote speech in Glasgow on this 25th anniversary of devolution, "We need to strengthen our democracy. Labour has done it before, and we will do it again." And now I do think that he's right in pushing these, because you do need clean politicians. And I know none of them are actually, whiter than white or cleaner than Caesar's wife and all that, and various metaphors for it. But at least some kind of veneer of decency would be a good thing, wouldn't it? A veneer of honesty. But hey, He said, "We will clean up the Scottish Parliament, with MSPs granted the same privileges and protections as MPs, and stronger powers for the parliamentarians to hold ministers to account. And that includes the election of committee conveners, the right to recall MSPs, and a ban on second jobs, and stronger freedom of information laws to ensure greater transparency and a rebuild a trust in politics." I would say definitely also the ability for ministers to be held to account by other ministers. At the moment, the only person who can report a minister to the Standards Committee is himself. Same with the First Minister. They can only report themselves. It should be within the right of any parliamentarian, any MSP, to report any other to the Standards Committee. I think that would also do it. Also, and another thing, maybe decentralise everything. The SNP have created a huge monolithic structure. Maybe remove some of it and hand it back out to the regions and make democracy more locally accountable. Maybe that as well, but we'll still see. Like I say, announcing it is not the same as doing it, and it is a long way in the future. But it is a move, I think, in the right direction. Anyway, we'll come up. So old Hobbalong Sarwar will ride into town, flash his big shiny badge, and say, "I'm cleaning this place up." In theory, yes, and I do hope he does. But I don't see it happening quickly. Like I say, it's 2 years to the election. And even then, it'll take years to get through. And there'll be a lot of resistance. Because a lot of those SNP MSPs in particular, but other parties as well, may be very resistant to the idea that they can be thrown out of office by the very constituents who they claim to represent. It's not going to be popular, but it needs to be done. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and I will speak to you later. Bye.